you ready to take your leadership journey to the next level? On the leadership platform TLP, we don't just talk about leadership, we live it. This year, we are bringing you cutting-edge insights, transformative tools, and real-world strategies to help you lead with confidence, purpose, and impact. This year, we have 4 seasons with 50 episodes. We will dive into themes such as leading self, leading others, and leading institutions. We bring you Leaders Are Readers. This monthly session focuses on book reviews, discussions, encouraging all participants to read along with selected books on personal leadership and professional leadership. We also have a time with the CEO. In this segment, we dive into the stories of prominent CEOs who share their insights, lessons learned throughout their leadership journey. We also bring you extraordinary leadership stories, highlighting individuals in our societies who are doing extraordinary things. This segment inspires viewers with real-life examples of leadership in action. We will bring you some brilliant minds, courageous leaders changing the narrative of Africa. We also bring you, finally, the expert-led sessions, which cover a wide range of leadership and personal development topics, providing practical guidance and actionable strategies for personal and professional development. The leadership platform is your go-to space for personal growth, professional breakthroughs, and meaningful connections. I am Joy Bunsu-Schmutz, co-host on TLP, and I will see you every Saturday, 7 p.m. GMT, live on YouTube and Facebook.
Hello. Good evening, viewers. Great to have you again with us for another episode of the Leadership Platform. Today, as you all know, I'm just getting my notes ready. We have been having a little bit of challenge, and I want to apologize that we had a little bit of a technical hitch, but we are back here with you. So wonderful. It's great to have all of you here. Please let us know where you are joining us from. I'm joining you from Geneva, Switzerland, where the weather has been so beautiful already for the spring, and I hope you had a wonderful weather also in Accra or wherever you're joining us. Let's have in the chat, wherever you're joining us from, your name and what you are looking forward to learning today on the Leadership Platform. Please also share the link with your network for people to join you and us so we all learn together as we grow. Great. So today on the Leadership Platform, we have a young gentleman who will be sharing with us what he has been able to put into a book. This segment is Leaders Are Readers. So we are going to have him share with us the content of his book. But before that, I can't see anybody really sharing where you're joining us from because Emmanuel, who takes after the name of my father, is here with us, and he would like to see those of you who are joining us. So please go ahead and share in the comments your name, where you're joining us from, and what you want to learn today from the Leadership Platform as far as our title is concerned. Okay, so as we wait for people to join, I will just invite Emmanuel to join us right now. And therefore, before he does so, let me give you a little bit of background on Emmanuel. Emmanuel Baah Ado is a Ghanaian writer. He is also a youth activist and a strategic communication professional whose work focuses on leadership, governance, and youth development. I like the part of youth development because this is what our continent needs. And he holds a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science and a Master's of Arts in Strategic Communication from the University of Education, Winneba, where his academic and practical interests converged around the formation of political leadership in Ghana. So during his time at the university, he played an active role in student leadership, most notably serving as University Hall president, and he led a large and diverse student body and championed initiatives, including the establishment of a reading room and library facility, already showing his leadership skills. He's also the founder of K's Foundation, a student-led initiative that supports persons with disabilities. His national engagement includes contesting for a leadership position within the National Union of Ghana Students, NUCS, an experience that deepened his understanding of students' politics across the country. Beyond Ghana, he has participated in academic engagements in South Africa and interacting with institutions such as the University of Witwatersrand and the University of Johannesburg on various African political development themes. He has written a book, which we're going to discuss today. That is the title, The Rise of a Statesman, From Campus Politics to National Responsibility. This is his first book and his maiden book, I will say, and therefore we are all ears to hear from Emmanuel today. So Emmanuel, if you will join me on stage, welcome to the Leadership Platform. And as you join us, I can see Mary Dede, who is joining us from Accra. She says, good evening. So Emmanuel, join me on stage, on the platform, and we can have the conversation. Great, wonderful. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Sarah Jessie Apia, and I'll be your co-host today. Sam will be joining us shortly as soon as he's able to sort out his technical internet connection. So welcome to the Leadership Platform, Emmanuel. Baah Adofo.
Thank you very much for having me here. It's a great honor and a great pleasure to be on this prestigious platform.
Excellent. Excellent. So,
the leadership
Emmanuel, this
platform
is
is
your
really doing
first time.
amazing.
Yeah. This is your first time on the Leadership Platform.
That's right.
Yeah. And we see Albert Donko saying, good evening, team. He says, good evening. And we have Mary also on the call. Great. So, Emmanuel, tell us a little bit about who you are. Are you working? You said you are founder of K. So tell us a little bit about who you are, how you grew up, and how you came to found your own company, or I will say initiative. Welcome, Sam. Over to you, Emmanuel.
Thank you very much. Emmanuel is a young man that's passionate about contributing significantly to the success story of other people. And so growing up, amongst the many things I would want to be known for was that young person that contributed his quota to wherever he found himself. I am a youth development advocate. I am I am into humanitarian work. And so in my second year in the university, I began the initiative CASE Foundation. So CASE is the abbreviation for Kind Hearted Achievable Youths Foundation. And so youth that are kind, who would want to support other people. And it came against the backdrop that in my hall of residence, we had individuals that were students living with special needs. And so we're speaking about individuals that are visually impaired, hearing impaired, and of course, physically challenged. And so growing up, having that instinct to want to always help, I wanted to help. And so how could I have done it in a more better way? We came together as young people, and so we decided to found the organization. And so young people came together within the hall and in the university, and then we began to support them in ways of providing braille sheets, providing basic materials like toiletries and all. So that is how Case Foundation actually began. So we engage with them. I believe in participatory kind of leadership, leadership that involves people, not leadership that imposes will. So we'll sit with them periodically to engage them to see what their daily challenges are, and then what we can also contribute to be able to at least lessen the burden of that. Even as people that are would want to call ourselves straight, there are a lot of problems we find ourselves in the university. So that is how Case Foundation began.
Okay.
Uh,
Wonderful. Thank you. And
Bro.
welcome. You have joined us. So, what do you have to
Yes,
say?
thank you, thank you, thank you. I had this internet challenge, but thank God I'm here. So that's a great, great thing to start with, Emmanuel. You know, but can you ask briefly about your background? Where were you born? Are you a Dadaba or like a village boy like me, walking several kilometers barefooted? How did you grow up? Because this kind of initiative, when we all go to university, that's not what we are thinking about. We are thinking about getting our grades and going out. So where did it come from? Is there anything in your background that forced this, or just because you wanted to, fight for SRC or something, you just start to do something? Where did it come from?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Sam. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I am not a dadaba. Unfortunately,
No, that's
yes.
fortunate. So those of us who are Javas, we are very fortunate. We have things that other of us don't have.
Yes, I'm not a rabbi. I like to think of myself as a typical grassroots. And so I actually come from a very humble home. And so I come from a single parent home. I lived with my mom. Yes, I live with my mom and then my senior brother. So we are siblings of four. I am the second born to have a senior brother. And
Okay.
I firsthand witnessed how challenging it was. And so I saw that for us to eat, it depended so much on my mother. For us to be clothed, it depended so much on her. Every single thing that would be of advantage to us would be at her behest. And so I understood the concept of compassion at a very early age. Even when she doesn't have, she would want to at all costs make sure that we have. So I began to build that gradually, wanting to be part of contributing to bringing some level of stability, relief to wherever that I found myself, even though it is not because I have in abundance, but to want to help. Again, from a Christian background, we have been taught the act of benevolence, the essences of giving, and so those were my foundation. It wasn't because there was abundance and all. I wanted to jump into influence, and so I used that tactic. Ours was born out of humility, a sense of belonging, and compassion. As an individual, I pride myself on the reputation of wanting to contribute to that. Empathy is one of the key principles that I have grown with as a young man. So, Mr. Sam, that is a bit about my background. I actually come from Eastern Region, Kwa, to be precise. Both parents are from Kwa. I'm from Kwa Obo, and so I'm from the Eastern Region of Ghana, the mountainous Eastern Region. So, Kwa Obo is where I come from, small London. Yeah. So basically, that's a bit about my background, sir.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel.
What
That's really
wonderful.
powerful. That's really powerful. And I love what you said about empathy and the fact that this is homegrown. I'll say homegrown, and you brought it throughout your, life's journey. So, as we going to discuss about this topic of you rising, is the rise of a statesman. Who is that rise of a statesman? Was that you? Why the title? Where is the title coming from?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Sarah. I'm. It comes with a lot of passion anytime I'm asked to um, bring the reality of the framework. So the rise of a statesman is the rise of a young man into that transition from campus politics to national responsibility. So how young people transition. So the process that initiates them into a national responsibility. And so the central thesis of the book speaks about the fact that campuses are not merely places of academic learning. Neither are they just academic spaces. They are also leadership factories. They are crucibles. They are places where political training begins. And so we have to take it very important. Our campuses are not where statesmen arrive. It is those places where discipline is formed, broken, and then remade. So if we want to deal with the problem of corruption at the national level, I believe that it began from somewhere in some university courtyard. And so we need to pay significant attention to the campus. That is entirely what the rise of a statesman is. Are we producing statesmen, or we are producing mere partisan tacticians? And that is a very interesting discovery that I would want to make with my book, pondering over the intricacies of um, student leadership. Having gone through the process myself, that became a puzzle. And so I decided to use my lived experiences, academic work, interviews, rely heavily on resources that are available to be able to bring this particular conversation. I believe we are in a dispensation and a time where youth involvement in leadership is no longer an opportunity given, it is an investment into the future. And if that is so, we need to shift from just youth inclusion to youth preparation. So that is exactly the rise of a statesman moment.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Just call me Sarah Gessie. That's all. Don't
Very
worry.
well, very well.
You know, you are Emmanuel. You are my father. My father is called.
Yeah.
Okay.
Emmanuel, I mean, that is a very interesting angle to
Right.
come from. Now, I get the idea of the need to prepare the young people or prepare our leaders from now. But should it start from the university, or should we start from somewhere else? We know that by the time people get to the universities, they're already fully formed. Of course, the university will contribute to certain, redirect them and so on and so forth. Recently, I had a very interesting chat with a professor from one of the university when some leaders of an external university came looking for certain things. And the debate was whether the university is a ground to prepare people for life or just to give them intellectual capacities to go. And I said, you are supposed to prepare people for life. She says, no, that's not the work of a university. So my question basically with all this long background is, from all the research that you are trying to do with the university leadership, we'll come to the content of the book. Should the journey of the leader to the statesman start at the university, or should we start from somewhere else, right from the basic level? What is your take on that?
Thank you very much, Sam. I believe that it begins from the campus. The campus here, to establish context, is not just university. And so when I say campus, it is not just talking about the university. It's talking about even the JHS. So in Ghana, the high school, those are all campuses. And interestingly, the forward was written by a student leader who has now risen to become a political figure, Dennis Apialabi. So during his high school days, he was the Zone 4 president in high school in Ashanti region. So that is where his leadership began as a teenager, somewhere around 14 years. So at that particular point, we are saying that the instinct to persuade, the reflexes to be patronized, and the pause to get yourself into a space of influence, that is where it begins from. So the attention of preparing them deliberately should begin. And so our campuses are the avenues where we begin to even discover ourselves as young persons. And the kinds of experiences, exposure that we go through, they stay with us. our leaders do not just appear. They don't just appear. They are forged and formed from somewhere. And so we need to be very deliberate about the kinds of processes, the kinds of experiences these young ones are going through, so that we are able to produce statesmen. Because if we fail to tackle the issue from the foundation, from that level, then it means we are ignoring a very important national problem, which is that if we are complaining today about a particular national issue that has to do with leadership, I feel that it is coming from the campus, whether it is in the high school, whether it is in the university, it is in the college of education. So that is what my opinion would be, sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's beautiful, Emmanuel. And I want to bring this personally to you. Could you walk us through this crucible? You said you call it the crucible of political training. Yeah. So
Right.
how has that been? How has that played out in your life? Just give us a little bit of the different.
Thank you very much. Thank you
Yes.
very much. Thank you very much, Sarah. Eminently, it has played a very significant role in my life. So I give a bit of background. In second year, I contested to become hall president in my university. In fact, proud before that, I was a house prefect in my high school. And
Okay.
so I came to the university, contested to be hall president. Third
Mhm.
year, I moved to the National Union of Ghana Students, Secretary for Innovation, Entrepreneurship, and Skill Development. Unfortunately, I didn't succeed, but the experiences was so enormous. And so National Union of Ghana Students is the biggest student body in this country. So that would mean that all the various blocks, we're speaking about the training colleges, the nurses and midwifery, the universities, even graduate students across the length and breadth of the country. That means you would have to campaign, typically like the national politics. So I moved around from the northern region to the middle belt and to the southern part. An excruciating journey that the book describes eminently in the chapter 3, where I was exposed to the national politics. So, the viewers can check it out if it has a lot in there. Now, what did I learn? I learned a lot. The first one would be the clarity of thought. How student leadership will not only give you an avenue to shout to boy, aluta. No, it prepares you, it challenges your thought. You get into a space where people are challenging even your background. Tribal politics, political necromancy, where people are sabotaging you. What we see at the national level, where you would have to, pay for people to understand that you are worth the office, where you would have to, compromise on principles, where you would have to do all of these things. So that experience taught me one thing. If I come out of student leadership and these experiences are still with me, that means that they will not disappear, they will graduate. So at that level, if I was giving, let's say, 5 people money, when I get to the national level, I would have to be giving a lot of people money. And that forms part of my character. And so
Mhm.
student leadership forges an individual through to its national position. And so, if care and maintenance are not made at that level, if we as a people do not pay attention to how are these young people going about these student politics, what are they even doing? You go for congresses and then you see that people are lined up taking money as young as we are. You go there and then you see people attacking each other, how we are treating opponents, how we even deal with defeat or victory. Some go to the extreme of, you know, spiritual stuff and all of those kinds of things. These characters do not disappear after graduating. They form parts, and then those that go into into mainstream politics move with that. Now, when that happens, that means that we are only going to produce politicians that can win elections and not those that can build a nation. Because
Mm.
if I have to buy my way through, that means that will be the same ideology, that will be the same habit, that will be the same value that I'm going into national politics with. So when I had those experiences, I felt that a lot needs to be done. I didn't have the money, I didn't have the capital, I didn't have the muscles. So you have the influx of, party involvement. So the second chapter of the book also talks about the National Union of Ghana students, the factionalism, the reunification, the history, and even the diaspora expansion. So factionalism, where you realize that MPP, NDC. So if I belong to the MPP and the MPP is in power, that means that my godfather is going to give me money or influence the voter behavior, or even bring national security to help me win, by foul or fair means. And so all these build a young person. Unfortunately for me, I didn't have those opportunities. I was a young man. I was passionate. I wanted to help. I knew that if I'm given the opportunity, I will be able to do something. I haven't over the course of time. I have a beautiful track record. So I felt that, the ideality of leadership is an individual that can, in the midst of challenges, provide solutions, defining feasibility and reality. Sarah, that is basically what I learned. That is why I feel that we need to be able to put something together and then let people make reference to exactly the rise of a statesman.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
This is interesting, and you have gone, Emmanuel. You have gone through this, and what you are painting and what you are saying is
Right.
what is happening right now. And you're absolutely right. This is where the seeds are sown, and we are having the influence of the MPP NDC influence. Another dimension is also the prestige that is actually associated. Recently, I launched a program called the Y3L, the Young Leaders Learning Lab, and we're trying to do a lab for youth leaders. And so we invited members of SRC from different universities, campuses, to the British Council to launch the program and to test it. And when they came, I was surprised with the presidents from one of the universities. They had the whole team. There was a president, there's somebody who was a chief justice, they have a chief of staff, and they have security people following the president, and they walk in just like the national president is coming.
That's right.
And they come and they put the seat for him to sit down. Now, this is university leaders. Again, when you even go to the secondary school, when they appoint you as the senior prefect, they give you a special room.
Yeah, your cubicle.
Your cubicle. You don't stay with the other people in the rooms. All those, and then you have some special privileges. When you go to the dining, there are special privileges. All those, tell me, don't you see? Do you see that these are seats where people now become national leaders, and they're fighting for V8? They want a whole house. They want every benefit, and they insulate themselves from the problems of the nation. What did you find as you were researching into this student leadership around these areas?
Thank you very much, Sam. Interestingly, and that has been one of the agendas I began when I was on campus, why I felt that there was no need for the SRC to have a budget that takes care of clothing, that takes care of a number of things that I feel that if you really want to serve, you have to serve your heart out. I think it boils down on what I call responsibility and then feelings. Young people seem to have the energy to want to serve, yet they do not want to bear the responsibility of service that comes from it. And so you realize that there is a lot of alacrity. You go into the universities and then they are running SRC elections, and a lot of people, everybody wants to be SRC president only because of the benefits that comes with it, not because of the responsibility of serving. And so the most important aspect of our leadership has now been turned to having influence. At the end of the day, I'm going to have some people carry my diary. I'm going to have a different room and not the responsibility. But leadership is about responsibility. It is about how you are able to negotiate on behalf of your people to bring certain reliefs. And for me, student leadership is activism. So activism would ask the question, what is wrong? But true leadership is also found in governance, where you are asking, what are these various decisions that I'm taking on behalf of my people? bring them? Is it going to bring them relief, or is it going to antagonize them? So I feel that it is as a result of how we are ignoring responsibilities as young people. The leadership scope and the space has now been glorified to be, I want to be influential. I want to be the known person on campus. I want to appear to my colleagues as being different and all of those things. The opulence that comes with I am an SRC president, the opulence that comes with I am SRC general secretary, but not the very responsibility that we swear oath for, even as student leaders. So much of them have not even built capacity. So much of them have not gone through the structures and the formation that makes them become leaders. And that is an argument as a young person I want to make. Leadership is not about the bricks and mortar. It is about the optics. Young people seem to have the energy, yet they do not have the preparation. They do not have the structure. They do not have the discipline. They do not have the clarity of thought. They do not have what it takes to be able to take decisions that would bring relief to their people. So I want to agree with you on the fact that there is so much shifting to opulence and then moving out of responsibility. But then and again, I feel that young people need a lot. And I want to applaud the leadership platform for such a very wonderful platform, giving them mentorship, giving them guidance so that they are even able to be aware of themselves. Going into leadership is not going to, amass wealth, or not going to, as it were, aggrandize yourself. Rather, it is you going to contribute significantly to the society, going to bring change. What would I be known for after my service? What is that legacy that I want to leave? And as a young person, you need to begin to think on that direction. That is exactly how you need to begin to think. Because if you are thinking today on that line, that means that tomorrow you do not end up as a politician or a party apparatchik, a tactician, but a statesman, an individual that wants to bring change and stability. So that is a bit on that, Uncle Sam.
Wow,
Thank
wow,
you.
wow, wow. And
Thank you so very much, Sarah.
yeah, this is really beautiful. But Emmanuel, so for the audience and for the young people that you're speaking to, if they are, let me backtrack. I would like to hear a little bit more of how you were able to navigate that landscape and come out unscathed, right?
Yes.
What are some principles that these young people have to have in their mind if they really want to go into leadership or become great leaders? But before you answer that, I can see Rosalind Pratt says, I quite like the idea of grooming leaders as early as from high school. However, in our early teens, we were quite impressionable. Emmanuel, can you speak on how we prevent indoctrination? So add that to the question so that you have two.
Sarah, I didn't get the question.
The question is, Rosalind wants you to speak on how we can prevent indoctrination in the campuses,
Right.
The primary level and the elementary levels.
elementary
Because you
levels.
have a lot of impressionable young people who are malleable. So how do we, if we're going to prepare them, how do we avoid them being indoctrinated and so on at that very early age?
Early age. You were able to navigate that land.
Yes.
What can you help us? For the young.
Indoctrination is a neutral word, but you take your bit.
Yes. But how they are
Outline
imbibed
to-
with certain principles that are not that are not in line.
Exactly. That's it. That's what
Absolutely.
Sarah is asking.
Yeah.
Yes. So young people in leadership should understand that leadership is not an eventful occasion or an event at the national level. So many of us at that level think that I want to become a politician. I want to become, a big man. And so I hear that once you become a student leader, some big man will see you, and then they will come, and you'll be their PA. The next thing you are the MP and all of that. That has been the ordeal. Having gone through the experience, that is exactly how it felt. But it is the discipline that is formed. It is the small responsibilities that you are tested with, and how those things are revealed when power arrives. That is the distinction. Ambition without discipline, Sarah, is noise. So when you're a young person and then you are ambitious, they say seeds of ambition breeds discontentment. Your ambition should be guided with so much discipline. And that is exactly what I did through student leadership. It was so difficult. At a point when I became war president, people that felt like, okay, you were the one that supported you, and so you needed to do things that didn't meet principles, moral principles. If you're not going to compromise on that, then that means we're going to leave you. I said, yes, then go. One of the major reasons why I didn't survive at the national level was some of these things, where you needed to go against your personal principles, your moral uprightness, just to be able to win power and not even be able to serve the very essence of why you contested. And so it begins so much from you as an individual, your personal principles. As a core principles, what are the things that you hold? I hold the principle of empathy, the principle of hard work, the principle of dialogue. I eschew violence. I believe in these principles. And so as a young person, I make sure, even though I would want to be flexible in these principles, I would also not compromise them for nothing, because that is going to be my identity for tomorrow. And so we can be able to escape these indoctrinations when, as young persons, we understand and have discovered who we truly are. That is the first step that we need to take. Now, beyond that, the onus also lies on authorities. And so, in the university, in the various high schools, what is even the processes that young people go through to become student leaders? That is a very important part of the conversation. Because if you are selling a nomination form at, let's say, 2,000 Ghana cedis, where are you expecting that university students to go and look for that money? That means that the person would go to that godfather who is a politician who would intend indoctrinating with a particular principle that is not upright. So those are significant areas we need to look at. First off, personal principles as a young person. Second, authorities. They also have a responsibility. The vetting process. How well do we pay attention to them? Now you go to certain universities and then the whole electioneering processes is only in the hands of the student who can be influenced. And so authorities should also have interest. And that is where we are coming to. We are saying that these young people need formation. They need to be guided. They need to be prepared. We shouldn't just ignore them and say that, oh, it is students and so students should do. Amongst the numbers of individuals that are even going to contest, there should be a proper scrutinization process beyond what the students have done. That is the only way we can be able to separate the chaps from the real individuals. So, Sarah, that is a bit about that. For me, principles was what helped me. I navigated the complexities of student politics with principles. I knew exactly who I was, I knew where I was going, and so I knew how to work. I didn't want to, at any point in my journey, compromise on these principles. I was flexible on a number of them. I'm a human being, and at a certain point, I would want to err. However, I made sure I did not stain my white shirt. So these are the few ones I would want to share, Totten. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Right. And just to follow up on Sarah, I think Ms. Okain was saying that, okay, let me just see if I can pick what he says. He says, Coach, most definitely, Coach Tam, you have drawn the outline from primary school all the way to national leadership level. Unfortunately, leadership values are so misaligned and root values are all totally ignored. Very, very sad. Structures developed through the years in all the lines of leadership traits and trends. Very challenging indeed. So that, Emmanuel, brings us to some of the values. Now, as we go through the book, have your book outline some of the leadership values that you think can be inculcated into this this preparation that you talk about, because I believe so much in the preparation, and I agree with you that if we are not intentional about preparing our young people, we would not get it right. They would just be photocopies, as we are seeing of the national politics, and the NDC MPP will continue to
Yes.
infiltrate and just mess up the whole system as it is, and we are not going to get anything better. So what are some of the values that you think need to intentionally, or that your research, your experience with student leadership, you think need to be inculcated into the youth preparation, so that when they rise, whether to youth leadership on campus or to national leadership or business leadership? And by the way, the leadership for us on this platform is not just the positions, it's about your ability to impact at any level. So what are some of the values that you find need to underpin this preparation?
Thank you very much once again, Sam. Um, Before I even get into itemizing some of the values, I want to put this across. Again, we realize one very important thing in our body politics, which by extension, even student politics. We have over-glorified positions, we have over-glorified influences, and we have under-examined preparations. One reason why we always get surprised as to why we are not moving as a country and all of those, why we are having leadership failures, because we have over-glorified positions. What happens if a young man says that I have secured a position to be the board director of, the entire family are not even looking at, are you capable? What is your preparation? They don't think about that. Whether or not he's capable, he has the competence, he has the capacity. They are just happy that the individual, has been positioned. The first principle that I find very important when it comes to values of leadership is integrity. Sam, I think that integrity is how you are able to be consistent with your principles. So before you got into whatever position that you found yourself, who were you and what have you now become? I don't believe that power or position changes people. Rather, it exposes their habit and their character. Because if you are Kofi does not change when Kofi is an SRC president. The real Kofi is actually seen and tested when he is given power. And so the principle of integrity, where one is consistent with their lives, the things that they already do, once they are able to depict that same character, we can see that that particular person is integrous in terms of keeping their promises, in terms of what they intend to do. They are able to meet it without any form of equivocation, not using tactics and all of that to sway people, navigating their way through. I believe that is mediocrity. And so integrity is the first value. The second value is empathy. I believe so much having compassionate feeling for other people, because without that you cannot be a leader. Okay, if you cannot be able to empathize with people, if you cannot feel for people, you cannot be a good leader. If you say it is not happening to me, you realize, as some you were saying, and on the campus as a young person, you've been given even clothing allowance. You go for meetings, and a young person, you are given per diem, right? All of these things. So that young individual that is struggling with school fees, that the welfare committee of the SRC needs to sign, you will not make sure of that. Rather, you would go and sign for the per diem, and then you go and sign for the clothing allowance. And so empathy is the other value that I would want to speak about when it comes to leadership. And these are all found in my book. The third one is hard work. Hard work. I believe in hard work. The Bible even says it, that a hand that does not work shall not feed. And so for me, another thing that we need to do as student leaders is to be able to work tirelessly to achieving the very promises that we made to our people. Leadership of hard work is a leadership that is so much admired. And in these days, young people are running away from them. They have the enthusiasm to, but they don't know how to put in the work. It is not about the rhetorics alone. It is about how you can be able to negotiate. You go to university council as an SRC president, and you don't go and then because you're an SRC president, you get things done. No, you have to sit, you have to be able to position yourself as a young person that has depth, not a young man that is an SRC president, or that is just, you need to present issues, speak to them, drive conversation, propose alternatives, and then personal development. And so hard work is another major principle I want to speak to. And the last one would be dialogue. I believe so much in dialogue. I believe that we can be able to solve all problems when we sit and then talk about them. I don't believe in violence. And one of the things that I would be known for in the University of Education, Winneba, is that leader that achieves success without necessarily being a loggerhead with management. And so I was able to get things done without not, going the demonstration way. I sat with management, I understood their plight, and I also represented the very interest of the people. Those that sent me there, I achieved so much, right? I was able to construct a reading room, fix lights. In fact, a number of them that to today, even a Google search of my name would bring some of the things I did at the University of Education. And so, Uncle Sam, these are the things. First off, I believe in integrity, hard work, empathy, and most importantly, dialogue. These are the values that I think that we can be able to, as young persons, cultivate the habit, and then it would lead us into prosperity. Thank you.
Wow, wow. And I can
Right.
see, yeah, Albert Donko is talking about non-negotiable leadership values, and you have just given your 4 non-negotiables,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
So
right.
that's beautiful. So, as I listen to you, what I'm hearing is that it's not just the external things that we do, but there was an inner journey that you went through for this to be showing out now.
Right.
So, as leaders, what we really exhibit outside is the inner transformation that we have gone through. So, Emmanuel, let me ask you, so who are you becoming?
Thank you very much. This is always interesting. I try to always run away from personal questions, but yeah, I'm becoming a better person for my yesterday. Um, a very important part of my life was also not to compare myself to any person. If there is anyone I'm comparing myself to, it is Emmanuel from yesterday. I'm always becoming better every day. My background again, you could do all things through Christ who strengthens you, and so I made sure that I decided to involve myself with value. As a young person coming from a very humble home, I saw my mom do every single thing to make sure that there was food on the table, I could go to a good school and all of that. So I developed the habit of wanting to become better, wanting to become the best version of myself at a very early age. Self-discovery. I started reading at a very young age. My house had a Macarius, Lighthouse Chapel. Do you know the Macarius is a collection of books. And so as a very young person, I started reading very early. And that habit grew. One of the major advices I received from my late stepdad, he said to me that going to school, if you are not the best, be part of the best. It is only through education that the poor meets the rich, Islam meets Christian. In fact, it levels the playing ground. And so when you're going to school, make sure that even if you are not the best, you are part of the best. And that advice stick with me. Every single time I wanted to be able to, not out of competition, but out of wanting to grow, growth, development, building capacity, that became a part of me. I read very well. I made sure that I asked questions that were going to provide me with the very information I needed to grow. A book that was written by Craig McCon, Essentialism, he said that doing small but better. And so I didn't rush. I still am not rushing. I take my time. I know what I want to achieve, and then I move through it. The Rise of a Statesman has taken 1 year, 3 months to put together. 1 year, the whole of 2025, I was working on the Rise of a Statesman. Right after my graduate school, I decided to put the book together because I was puzzled. I wanted to ask questions. I wanted to, interviews, research, personal experiences. And so, Sarah, for me, becoming Emmanuel, the better version, is who I am becoming. And it's shown everywhere I found myself. I want to contribute. I want to be able to add something significant everywhere I find myself. I want to be a blessing. So Christian principles also has cushioned my life. And so I always want to make sure that I am of relevance. I don't want to be a liability, but I want to be an asset. Thank you.
Wow. I don't want to be a liability. I want to be an asset.
That's right.
What a powerful statement. Emmanuel, I mean, as you're speaking also, I heard the habits that you have developed saying, okay, These are some of the habits that I live by. So, in your book, do you have a chapter or something on habits that leaders who are being formed can really refer to? What are some of the great habits? Did you cover that in your book?
Yes, yes. The book describes that.
Okay.
So the first habit was the habit of reading.
Yeah.
If you know so much, you are indispensable. But if you do not know so much, you are easily disposable.
Mm-hmm.
So what that meant to me was that I was going to, at every point in time, know something that was worth the space.
Mm-hmm.
So right after school, I went to the constituency and I found a challenge. Leadership in our constituency, I come from the Nkoko constituency in the eastern region. They had neglected quite a number of things. I grew up there and I saw, how it was 10 years. And now things they continue to deteriorate. Now, I didn't sit at the flanks. I read political science in school, the art and science of politics, how we can be able to collectively build the society. So I began to ask questions. So I would write to the office of the municipal chief executive asking certain questions. Why is it that we have a refuse dump that is so much overflowing? Why is it that we have a demolished sports stadium where I played football, where, during my JHS, we go for 6 match? I began to ask questions. We, and that is one of the habits. We need to be a questioning society. Don't say I am young. No, don't say you are where you have to be. So I began to ask questions. I began to write. I wrote to media houses. Some were not minding me. The MC was not replying me. And so in 2023, I I led a team of concerned youth in my constituency, and then we embarked on a peaceful demonstration. Emphasis on peaceful demonstration, because it seemed that that was the only avenue with which our leaders were going to listen to me. So I began to go to radio stations. I began going to radio stations. Now they will listen to me. So over a space of about 5 months, I was on the radio station. In fact, the whole constituency, I visited every single radio station, speaking about how important we have come as a people, and we do not need all these that we're seeing. Lack of opportunities for young people in the constituency, lack of social amenities, and all of that. So we walked the street of Nkoko and then we demanded answers. Fortunately, we were able to then meet the MC. He responded to the petition, and then to some extent, even though he didn't do it all, to some extent, some of the issues were salvaged. And so, being part, getting involved is one of the habits I cultivated. I didn't want to sit at the flanks, anywhere I find myself. I want to do something right. So I want to find what I can do and then bring some solution. Reading was another part of it. And I would want to, at this point, refer to some of the values as well. Because all these things comes out of the values. Why is it that I would be concerned about a sports stadium that I used to play football there? Today, I'm not a footballer. Why would I be concerned? But that sense of empathy. What about those young ones that have the dream to become footballers? Which football field are they going to play on? That individual that is suffering from cholera because the refuse dump has not been kept clean. So these are the habits that I have grown over the space of time to be able to, even amongst my small circle as friends, I make sure that there are certain habits that timely would want to meet and then discuss about issues. These days people do not pay attention to men. So I formed some small group. We meet as men and then we discuss. Just myself and my friend, we'll be talking to each other, what is going on, how is life, and all of that. But by so doing, we are creating a room, a system that can accommodate our problems, and then so on and so forth. So basically, these are the habits that Sarah I have cultivated over the period. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Great,
Sam?
great, great, great. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Emmanuel, I think we've taken some of the questions, but guys, if you have any questions for Emmanuel,
Right.
please bring it up and Emmanuel will address it. We are discussing, Emmanuel, the author of The Rise of a Statesman. And this is a book that he has put together chronicling his life as a student leader and some of the experiences on student leadership and how that his theory is that the campus should be developed as a preparatory ground for proper national leadership. And so we're discussing with Emmanuel, who is sharing his experience, his thoughts, and we want you, the book is going to be launched next month, and it's going to be in Amazon and it's going to be available. We want
That's
you
right.
to get a copy of the book and read, and it should be read by everybody so that you can get some ideas when your children are going to the campuses. When at home, some of these ideas can help you to shape your children. And when you go to campus and you want to be in student leadership, understand ABCD. These are some of the values, these are some of the habits, these are some of the things you need to watch. So please, this is what we are discussing. If you have any questions for Emmanuel, please bring it on. But Emmanuel, I have one question. We know that the campuses are polluted by the national politicians. Even national politics, even student politics is MPP, NDC. We
Yes.
know that, like you said, the practices, even occult practices, which the national politicians are going, which have now empowered the so-called prophets. Why is it that when it comes to election time, all the prophets are up? Because they want to shout who is going to win so that the presidential candidates can come and pay them money and do it. So they have empowered them. Okay. And the student politicians are getting involved in all these things. And we are saying this is not the way to go. If we perpetuate this, we are not going to have the quality leadership that we need to transform our country. So, with all the experience you have from writing this book and research, where should we start from? Because sometimes people say, oh, the young people should not do this, the young people should do this. And I said, no. Every morning the young man wakes up, he's hearing the minister has stolen this money. Every morning the young man wakes up, he's hearing the president making a promise yesterday, and today he says, no, that promise is not important anymore. Every day the wake up, he's seen a national political figure who is fighting for something. Now that he has power, he has kept quiet. Like somebody said, they asked the politician, when you are in opposition, you are talking and shouting hard, but immediately you get power, you keep quiet. Why? And he says the mouth that is eating doesn't talk. So once they get the power, they are eating. It's all about themselves. From your perspective, where should we start from to break this jinx? What are your pennies or pesewas on the table on that big question?
Thank you very much. The, the, this is a very nuanced question because it affects so much of our body politics, where we start from. And leadership is always seen from its beginning. It is not what we see in public, it is what we practice in private. So we have to begin from our individual personalities. Again, where we are socializing these young people, that is where we need to begin from. The foundation. The Ghanaian politician did not just emerge. So before parliament, there were campuses. Before the presidency, there were some platforms in university courtyard. And what was happening there? Discipline was being forged, even in obscurity. Instincts to convince people. These habits were formed there. And so, if at that cradle moment we are able to expound from these young persons those attitudes that would otherwise graduate to become something big, then we are solving a problem. Somebody said that the serpent in Genesis, if it is not killed, it turns into a dragon when it gets to Revelation. And so, right at the beginning, if the problem is being introduced, we need to tackle it there, hook, line, and sinker. That is what I am advocating for. Let's pay attention to the young person. Let's offer the young person mentorship. Let's prepare them. Let's give them guidance. Let's make sure that we do not continue to produce the leaders we are seeing and complaining about today. One of the major antidotes that we can be able to produce to help combat the situation of what we are finding is to pay significant attention to our campuses. So that is where we should begin from. We should go back and then make sure that the activism of the 1956, the days where Ghanaian student leaders were helping with our independence and liberation movement were formed. Students were part those times. W. Du Bois, even across the African continent, the likes of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, these were young people. That is the kind of leaders we want to see, not those ones that have the mindset of opulence, the mindset of I want to be the next, His Excellency John Dramani, just because he is driving in some car, not the discipline, not the patience, not the clarity of mind, and all of that. So it is at the very beginning of where they are beginning from. That school prefect in the JHS, that SRC president in the university, that is where we need to begin from. What are the processes that socializes them in leadership? What are the things that we are seeing? What are the things that we need to encourage? What are the things that we need to discourage? When we are able to do that, I believe strongly that we can be able to gradually, even if not at once, gradually make sure of that. One of the parts of the book is that I examine the journey of some of our political figures and how their trajectory began from student activism and how it has contributed or otherwise to their national career. So that is like an analysis from both major political parties. And so I pick an individual and then, what the person did during student politics and how it has shaped or done otherwise to that. So I feel that we need to begin from there. We need to begin from the campuses. We need to start paying attention to that young SRC president. And the book, as it is, The Rise of a Statesman, is targeting a number of readers. The first one is that young person. The young person that is contesting to be SRC president, contesting to be school prefect, contesting to be hall president, contesting to be Pensa president. Even the denominations, they also have their leaders. It is for them. I am saying that the venture they are getting to is a serious one. Student politics is not rehearsal. It is actually what it is. It is the leadership thing. So it determines who you become tomorrow. So you should be able to pay attention to how you speak to opponents. Sam, it will shock you how student politics, some denigrate the integrity of their opponent. Young people, how they speak ill about their opponent just because they want to be in power. That is a problem. We shouldn't encourage that. How they campaign. Okay, have you gone to take money from somewhere? Some even use their school fees and other things to campaign. That is not right. You don't have to do that. You want to serve. Why are you doing all of that? If you go and use your school fees, that means that you want to come into office and then do something. So these are things that you need to take and pay attention to. How you treat your opponent, how you campaign, and how you even associate with victory or defeat. That is also a very important thing. Okay, if you wanted to do something positive and the people say, "Oh, we are not giving that mandate," it should be okay. You should be very content. You don't have to allow that destroy you. You have a very brighter future ahead of you. The second one is that graduate that wants to transition into mainstream politics. Be able to understand the bridge from campus politics to the national responsibility. They are two different things. And to learn from those that have walked the path, the weaknesses, the strengths, so that you can be able to shape yours. And the last one, Sam, is the Ghanaian scholar and the political observer. Okay, I am saying that our history, our country's history is incomplete without our campuses. We cannot fully appreciate our democracy without not appreciating or understanding our campus activism. And that is exactly what we seek to do with this book. These three scope, it cuts across. If you're a scholar, it is for you. If you are a young person that wants to enter into student politics, it is for you. If you are transitioning from student politics to the national responsibility, it is also for you. You need to present value. Don't go as somebody that just wants to know. Go with something. Are you a researcher? Are you an IT person? What is it that you can contribute? What are the solutions that you are bringing on board? And that is how we can be able to fully, gradually build people to become statesmen, contribute to solving the societal problems, by extension, the national problem, and not mere partisan people. Even if I belong to a particular ideology and it is not, they're not doing the right thing, because partisan, I has clouded my sense of judgment. I want to say it is okay. No, the campuses can be able to shape us to become a good person. So I believe that we should begin from the campuses. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so very much. Sarah, I'll come to you, but I just want to follow up with Emmanuel briefly on this one. Emmanuel, with all this preparation thing, where do you see the role of mentorship and coaching? I mean, we are coaches, so coaching is very important to us.
That's right. That's very important.
But now, in that context, I want you to look at the phenomenon of our young people who are today very impatient young people. They want to get it like yesterday. Everything has to be fast. I mean, I've met a lot of young people. I sit with them and I said, okay. I mean, just this week, I'm discussing with one young lady who's working. She wants to do business. So I was like, okay, you want to do business? What do you want to do? Sit down, put your thoughts into writing, and let me see, what business do you want to do? What if you want to sell? What are the items? Where are you going to get them? What is the cost? Who are you going to sell to? Just do a small analysis for me. It was like, oh no, all I need is I need a container. And if you can help me get the container, then I'll start from there. I said, but the container is part of your business plan. And it was like, okay, if you don't want to help me with the container, then it's okay. Now, they don't want to do the basic things. I said,
Hard work.
you don't need capital to do your business plan. You don't need money. You can sit down and write. But we are not prepared to do that. We are not prepared to sit down and do the thinking, the hard thinking, and write things and go through the process. We want the thing like yesterday. So when you try to mentor these people, after you walk them through a bit, they disappear, they don't come back. So what do you see to be the role? And as you said, the book is targeting some of these young people also, which is great. What will you say to them as far as mentorship and what attitude they need to have when they want to go to a mentor? They say, I want you to mentor me. And when you start to walk through the things and say, go and do this and come back and let's see, disappear. What's your thought?
Thank you very much, Uncle Sam. This is so glaring. It is so true that I always tend to smile. Even our own colleagues, some tend to think that we are doing well or we are doing better by virtue of what they see and not wanting to put in the work. In the book, I've indicated that some young people have energy in terms of readiness, but they do not have structure. Structure here, we are speaking about patience. Structure here, we are speaking about clarity of even what they want to do. We are speaking of the ability to be able to understand that I need to be responsible beyond my enthusiasm. And that is a problem we need to tackle. And it's so true. I have always wanted to, when I was growing, at the latter part, I wanted to experience proper mentorship. I wanted to have somebody that I could go to share thoughts with him and all, because I knew that one of the major problems we have in our country is that we do not have guidance. Even in our educational curriculum and our systems, one of the major problems is these things. The young graduate is left to his own, he's done with school, and then he does not know what to do. So mentorship is a key factor. However, the problem, these young ones, are they prepared to be mentored? It becomes so difficult. If I am not feeling fine and I go to the hospital and the doctor is asking what is wrong with me, and I say I will not talk to him about what is wrong with me, or I'm not going to do what he's asking me to do, how then do you get healed? So it's a very important conversation that needs to be had. Broader stakeholder engagement, I believe so. And again, it is an acculturation problem. It is how we are going to be able to socialize these young persons to understand what it even means to be mentored. Mentorship is not giving somebody money. Mentorship is not tomorrow I want to be this, and so you meet a mentor and then tomorrow it happens. No, I have undergone mentorship, and then, and as you're saying, it had to go through process. You need to go through the mail. You need to be able to be tested. The gold has to be refined. So these young ones they want the influence, they want the whatever that comes with growing, yet they don't want to bear the responsibility, the discipline that sustains it. That is a problem. It is a major problem. On Monday, I was on Star FM to discuss my book and, of course, some topical issues. And I was asked that one member of parliament in Accra, has said the young persons are not serious and they should create avenues to, get some income. They should do Indomie. That message really wasn't received very well. And so it came with a lot of backslash. And this is what I had to say. I said that I cannot fault the intention of the member of parliament. I really can't. Probably the worst I can do is to question the urgency that he used to attend to a sensitive issue of that matter. The young person is struggling. The young person is not so much appeased with the systems and the structures that have been put in place by government. However, I think he also had a point in there. As young people, we need to take responsibility. We need to be able to understand that our destinies are in our own hands. Alan Keynes, he said that the best way to predict the future is to begin to invent it today. So the tomorrow you are looking for, you need to start building it today. And that is your responsibility, sir. That is your responsibility, young madam. If you don't do that, you cannot blame anybody tomorrow. So, understand, I feel that young persons should even they should be allowed to go through the process of understanding what it means to have mentorship, to have guidance, and to understand that in reality you have to go through a process. It doesn't happen overnight. So before you are even introduced into a mentorship program, you need to be able to have a clarity of mind. Do you know what it means to be mentored? Do you know what you want to achieve? Do you know where you are going? Those are the key fundamentals. Those are the pillars that can stand for a young person who really wants to achieve something. But today, as we see, young persons are so, youth exuberant, and they think that every single thing needs to happen all at once. As I'm saying, it's taking a year for me to put, this book together. Why? Because I needed to bring something that is very solid, a concomitant compendium document, one that would stand the test of time. And by God's grace, I think that is exactly what we've been able to receive. It took patience. I needed to give to researchers. I needed to give to lecturers. I needed to be patient. Some you don't meet them in the offices. I want to have interviews. You don't get them. However, you still keep the goal. That is what makes you a member of society. That is what makes you who you really want to be. Not the overnight. I want to turn into somebody and I tend to. So understand, I agree with you. And I feel that we need to, as young people, take responsibility of where we want to be. Thank you.
Wow.
Wonderful.
Wow.
Okay, Sarah, we have just 10 minutes.
Yes, I know.
What else do you have so that Emmanuel can give us a quick summary, 1, 2, 3 of the lessons of the book that he wants to leave with us?
Perfect. Emmanuel, as you're speaking, your journey reminds us, I think all of us on the call today, the path from influence to impact is not shaped by what we achieve, but who we become along the way. Yeah. So listening to you, your invitation is really clear to all of us that we have to start from the campuses and the different, or wherever we are, we find ourselves in our own little ways. That is where to begin. But I'd like you to maybe round us off with a dessert. Where are you going to have this book lunch? And when is it going to be? What is the date? So that people will be able to connect with you, and how can they also connect with you? And Sam, I think there is something from Olivia on the chat. So if you can have a look at that. Perfect. So over to you, Emmanuel. Where can we connect with you? where do we come for the lunch? And also, when is the lunch?
Thank you very much, Sarah. Adofo Baah Emmanuel on social media platforms on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So you can connect with me on all those platforms. Yes. Let's get connected and then let's get interactive. The book is going to be launched next month in May. Unfortunately, the date is not yet out, but it is going to be in May. It's going to be in my alma mater, University of Education, Winneba. They say if you forget your roots, you will not bear fruit. I did both my first and second degree in the University of Education, and so that is where we are launching the rise of a statesman. You're going to have student leaders, you're going to have statesmen, you're going to have politicians, you're going to have industry players. Let's come and then have a very wonderful time. Let's connect, let's share ideas, let's drive conversation, partner some development, and then propose alternatives. Young people are now taking over at a time where the country, we have a ministry that is dedicated to young people. I feel that we have a lot to offer. The Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment, a ministry that shapes how the country engages young people. And so now the youth, we are no longer the future. We are here. We are actually part of it. And so come around University of Education. Once the date is out, I'll make it available on my platforms, and then we can all be there. So Sarah, that is the roundup on the book and when you can get it. It's also on Amazon. I think I shared the link with Akofa. It's available now on Amazon. Our global audience can also get it from there.
Excellent, great. So Emmanuel, thank you so much. It's been amazing listening to you, and I just love your passion, which is so infectious. So keep it up, and we'll be connecting and really following you on your journey, and also putting into action all things that you have taught us today. So viewers, it's been the leadership platform today, and I hope you're all going away to lead in every little way that you find yourself, because this is what Emmanuel is calling us to, so that we be able to impact and form the youth for leadership for our nations and for our continent and for the world at large. So with that said, it's good night from the leadership platform. Please share the link with your network so that others also will learn along with us. Good night, and see you next week. Bye-bye. I believe we have a little technical issue, but that will be sorted out very soon. Okay, Sam, we are done, so you will need to close us.
All right. So thank you, everybody. I'm sorry my internet got me off again. But Emmanuel, thank you so much for sharing on this platform for us. And for everybody, we encourage you to get a book so that we can all become better leaders. Emmanuel, the sky is not the limit. All of us have a role to play in developing our young people. Let us all hold their hands and let us build. This is what this platform is made for. Until we come your way next week with another great leadership lesson. This has been the leadership platform. My name is Samuel Ayim. I'm joined by Sarah and the team at CTL Africa Leadership. We are here to help to build leaders for tomorrow. God bless you and stay on the growth path. See you.
And by the way, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, do that now.